because he's Chairman of Children's Services.
Thank you, everybody. I think we're ready to start. So welcome to Tees Valley Combined Authority Governance Committee meeting. We don't have a chair today, we need to appoint a chair and vice chair, so that's item 3 on the agenda. So we'll take apologies for absence first, please.
We have apologies from Angus and Lee and Councillor Walker.
Thank you. And any declarations of interest from members? Thank you. So I can take you to item 3 on the agenda, please, which is the governance appointments paper. So the first item on the governance appointments paper is subject to the approval of TVCA Cabinet. It will go to the next Cabinet meeting in September, is to appoint a chair and vice chair of this committee. It's a vote from this committee from the constituent authority members, so the chair role and vice chair role can only be filled by a local authority member. It's a vote from the committee for both roles. We've had some nominations in advance of the meeting. Councillor Porter for chair, Councillor Grogan and Councillor Walker for vice chair. Are there any other nominations for chair?
I'm not going for chair.
No,
no
vice chair. Vice chair, yeah. Are there any other than Councillor Porter, are there any other nominations for chair? No. Can I take a vote from the committee then, please, on Councillor Porter as chair of this committee? Thank you. And any other nominations for vice chair, other than Councillor Grogan and Councillor Walker? Nope. Okay, we've had 2 nominations, so we'll need to take a vote, please, to recommend to TVCA Cabinet. So we've got, can we take a vote, please, for Councillor Grogan? And for Councillor Walker? Okay, so that was 3 for Councillor Grogan and...
Wasn't it? Oh, it's only left members.
Yeah. No. All the whole committee.
3 here, didn't we?
And 1 for Councillor Walker. Yeah, in which case, is the committee happy to propose Councillor Grogan as vice chair?
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. Thank you. Councillor Porter, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thank you.
Chair,
Yep.
may I ask why this has to be, and the word used is approved by the Cabinet? Surely this is a separate, distinct and independent grouping. So the question really is, what happens if they say, no, you can't have that person?
So it's a
There was a big discussion last week, wasn't there, about whether the Cabinet itself should approve or note the appointments of the chairs and vice chairs of the development corporations. It seems to me, being a complete newbie, that this is about control, and I don't like it.
So in terms of the ratification of the decision of this committee will go to Cabinet. It's constitutionally that way at this present time, but we can certainly take it away and have a look to see if that's how other mayoral combined authorities approach it.
So will this also go, sorry, I don't know where she's gone. Will this also go to the shadow board for their views on whether they should be approving it?
What do you mean by shadow board?
Well, the SIFA, the guy from SIFA is the chair of the shadow board that shadows the actual board. We were told that last time. I was sitting over there next to my colleague.
Do you mean the independent advisory board for the...
the word shadow was used actually.
Yeah, so at the moment, so there's an improvement board, well, an independent advisory board, which is formerly referred to as the improvement board, following the receipt of the best value notice. So the independent advisory board, the makeup of that and the membership of that came to Cabinet last Friday. It did sit because as a result of from the Tees Valley review, we had 3 members of the Local Government Association working with us to implement the changes following the Tees Valley review. They were recommended by the best value notice to start the formation of the independent advisory board, so that membership has been built upon to the membership that was brought to Cabinet on Friday. So that's what it meant by shadow board.
Well, we were told a shadow board. That was the description that was given to us. As I say, I noted it down, sitting over there.
Can I ask, was it the last meeting that the 16th?
The last meeting,
yeah.
2 weeks ago today.
You're in the minutes in here, just
Can I just come in? I think I recall what the members saying, because there was a conversation on before the Cabinet approved the actual board properly, the term that was being used was it's operating in shadow form before actually the cabinet can approve it. So it's the same grouping of people, but they were operating in a shadow form before cabinet formally approves. That's the makeup of the independent advisory board. If that helps.
Well, not really, but going back to my original question, so why approve? Why not note? Because approve smacks as though they can say no.
So at the moment that's...
So but if they disapprove, presumably we can't have the people we've just elected.
At the moment that's what's provided for in the Constitution, so that's the process the Constitution will need to follow. But in terms of whether or not that is the norm, we can certainly have a look to see what other combined authorities do and what the Tees Valley Combined Authority Functions Order does, and certainly review whether or not that's required. But at the moment the Constitution provides that the Chair and Vice Chair are approved by Cabinet.
So under what auspices does the Constitution say that? I haven't had the delight of reading the TVCA Constitution. I'm sure it's action-packed and full of vim.
Well, I mean, I can go away and have a look to see where the background of it.
Well, I think we need to know before we start saying that's okay.
Yep.
I've got a link to it on my phone.
Yeah, I'm aware that it says approve the Chair and Vice Chair, but as to the background of it, I'm not too sure what prompted that clause of the Constitution, but I can certainly have a look at it for you.
Now you mentioned the word control again.
So can we take that as action? Yeah. Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
It would be useful to have that minuted so we can come back and find out what
And then we'll take it
exactly it says.
There's a bit of a grey area there that could be
We need
used.
to
Very
finish
dark
off
out.
the
Yeah.
Almost black.
Was it 3B on a pencil?
Thanks everybody, and thank you for nominating me again for the chair role. I'm quite happy to continue. It's a pleasure to work with this committee, so hopefully the next year ahead will be a good year. And thank you to Councillor Grogan as well for putting himself forward as Vice Chair, so I'm sure we'll all work in unison with one another over the coming year, so thank you for that. So just back to the agenda, so we've appointed Chair and Vice Chair. The other representations are the appointments of the representative and substitute for the STDC Audit and Governance Committee. Previously, I know we have had the people who are part of that borough, basically, who have been appointed or nominated to that committee. So really it's open to this committee. Obviously the first one is STDC. Do we have any nominations for that?
Chair?
Yes.
I'm the elected member for Redcar Cleveland, so I believe that should be my position. So.
You're happy to put yourself
Yeah.
forward? Yeah. Anybody else at all for that role? No? Can we just vote? We're all happy to appoint Councillor Grogan to STDC? Yeah. Thank you very much for that one. Thank you. And likewise with the, is it a substitute we need for that as well? Can you just check? Yeah. So we do need to, did we have a substitute previously?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
They were brought in towards the back end of last municipal year.
Yeah. So we just need a substitute representative as well for STDC. Any nominations?
I nominate Councillor Paul Salvin to be my substitute.
Any other nominations at all? No? Can we approve Paul to be the substitute for that board? Yeah, thank you. The appointment for representative for the Hartlepool Development Corporation. So again, this is for the representative, and we'll do the substitute representative. So do we have any nominations for the representative for that board?
Well, I guess yours truly.
You're absolutely, you can
sins are
certainly.
successful.
That's fine, thank you, Councillor Boddy, for putting yourself forward for that. Any other nominations at all? No? Are we happy to appoint Councillor Boddy to that role? Well, yeah. Thank you very much for that. And likewise, a substitute representative to the Hartlepool Development Corporation.
I presume it doesn't have to be a member of this committee then?
So previously Councillor, so I'm assuming Councillor Salvin is your sub, so previously, I mean it's entirely up to you who you put forward as who you put forward as your substitute, but previously members have used their substitute on this committee, so whoever you put forward as your sub on this committee would follow you on to HGC Audit and Governance, but it's entirely up to
So
you.
my sub in Hartlepool
Yes,
is
yes,
John
yeah.
Nelson.
John Nelson.
John
Nelson, yeah. And would he be happy to sub for you on Hartlepool Development Corporation?
No, he's an accountant, he looks things like that.
So are you putting forward John, did you say Nelson?
Councillor John
So,
Nelson.
Yeah, John Nelson. People happy to appoint John?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for that one. And the last one is the appointment for a representative for the Middlesbrough Development Corporation, and again a substitute for the Middlesbrough Development Corporation. So I think it was previously Councillor Walker,
Yes, it was,
wasn't it, I believe? So do you know whether she still wants to do that?
Yes, she's
Yes.
happy to continue. Put
Yeah,
her forward.
absolutely, thank you. Are we happy, anybody else, from anybody else? No? Are we happy to appoint Councillor Walker?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And substitute representative?
That would be me if
I was
I
going
could
to say,
want
would that be yourself? I think it would be, wouldn't it? Thank you. Any others for substitute before we go? We all happy to appoint? Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you everybody for those. And it is, it's good when people, are able to put themselves forward. It is a commitment, and we do recognise the commitment that everybody puts forward for these corporations and the additional roles and representation. So thanks everybody for putting yourselves forward for those as well. Thank you. So on to the remaining items on the agenda. So agenda item number 4 are the minutes of the previous meeting and the action tracker. So the minutes of the meeting were held on, we've got the 10th of April and we've got the 16th of June minutes. Are we happy to appoint the 10th of April minutes? Are we happy with those? Any queries? Questions, anybody on those? Are we happy to approve the April ones? Yeah, thank you. And the 16th of June minutes. Anybody got any questions or queries on the 16th of June ones at all?
Can I just say,
Councillor
Chair,
Brogan, yes.
obviously following Councillor Body's observations, he did mention the word shadow, as in what you've already mentioned prior to this agenda.
Yeah.
I can't seem to see in the minutes of that meeting, that conversation. I'm just trying to look for it there really quickly with Councillor Body actually mentioning it there.
Can't see on a search.
No, I've just searched, and I can't see it.
Can that
Is it
be-
worth us just revisiting that point just to check? Yeah. Can we,
Especially with it being noted for further conversation at a
Yes.
later date.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if we could just review that, and thank you. Any other comments or questions on the 16th of June minutes? Are we happy to approve them with a true record apart from the observations from Councillor Brogan there? Could you confirm that one to the committee once we were aware of the outcome on that one? Yeah, thank you. No, we're happy to approve? Yeah, thank you. Gary, have you got any updates on the action tracker at all that you'd like to update now at this point, or?
I think there aren't any further updates. There's over the next few months, there's a few, as you can see, briefing sessions to happen, and I believe there's some training actually after this formal meeting as well on risk management topic, I think, for later on that we've got. So they're mainly there. We could do with finalising up some owners and dates, I think, which we'll work with the governance team on those, and once we've got those updated we can circulate that round to the committee as well. We don't need to wait for the next meeting to circulate that, just to give the committee some assurance that we've got people with key dates allocated to the ones that are blank at the moment.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Gary. Yeah, I think it would be useful just to get some owners on, and then we can track them as the year goes on, because there's quite a few gaps on that one in terms of the owners, and there's a couple of sort of target dates that just need confirming as well, isn't there? So yeah, it would be good to see that, and likewise, yeah, we don't need to wait for the next one for that to be circulated. That would be really useful. Thank you. Anybody got any questions at all on the terms on the action tracker? Councillor, yes.
Can I just ask, mentioning training, as a substitute it will be useful to be offered any training that you're offering the main committee, so if it could be included in that, I'd be very grateful. And perhaps also the meeting papers when they normally go out, keep an eye on what's going on in case I have to step in.
Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point, isn't it? And like you say, because you never know when you might need to substitute, isn't it? So I think it would be useful to have you involved in any of the substitutes involved in those. So yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
I think so, and I mean, SIPFA are not too keen on substitutes on audit committees, so if we're as best prepared as we can be as substitutes, then that reduces the problem a bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Thank you. I'll agree with that one. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor.
I don't really understand. So if you look at the meeting of the 16th of January 2025, fourth item down, managing unreasonable behaviour. Well, that bit I do understand. From members, yes. For the public policy, what does that mean?
Members of the public, it's a policy. So
I don't know. It just says members of the public policy.
So
Hence, what does that mean?
So the title of the policy is Managing Unreasonable Behaviour from Members of the Public Policy. It's the title of the policy, which came in January, which we're bringing back in September.
So it's managing unreasonable behaviours policy from members of the public. So it's grammatically not correct.
We can change the grammar, Councillor. You would like us to change the grammar, certainly.
My education is terrible.
Otherwise
it makes no sense.
Any other comments or questions on those minutes and the action tracker? No? Thank you for that. Thank you. Item number 5 on the agenda, which is the Ernst & Young External Audit 23-24 and Provisional Audit Planning Report for the year end 31st of March 2025. Are you starting off with this one, Claire? Yeah, thank you. Just slide the switch, I think. Is it on? You've got a green light at the bottom.
I think you're on.
You're on.
Yeah, you're on. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair. So I'm aware this is a very long document, so I'll take members through the executive summary at a high level, which summarises the key points. And then happy to take any questions on any element of the document. So this is our audit strategy for the financial statements for the year ended the 31st of March 2025. And the first page, which is page 5 of our report, page 45 of the pack, just sets out kind of the context which we talked about for numerous years around the reset of local audit. I think the good news is that on the next page, page 6 of our report, we set out the rebuild of assurance and the proposition. And since the time this report was written, the guidance on the rebuild of assurance over reserves has actually been released. I think it was the week before last that it came out to the National Audit Office and the FRC. I'm pleased that is kind of in line with what we were expecting. So we are now, as a firm, revisiting that, looking at our work programme, and we'll bring more back to you at later committees on what the rebuild of assurance of reserves is likely to look like for this body. But I think given the number of disclaimed years of opinion, it is still highly probable that we're going to have a risk of material misstatement in the open reserve position. There will be some natural build back, so if we manage to complete the audit and do the full close and balance sheet audit as planned this year, then that will naturally start the build back process, and it'll just be those adjustments between reserves that we'll need to look at each year. But as I say, we'll bring that back once we've viewed through the guidance and understood what that means for you as an individual body. The key page here is probably page 7 of our report, page 47 of the pack. It may set out the audit risks that we've identified for the authority for 24-25. First one, the risk of misstatement due to fraud error. So that is a mandatory risk that is required to be considered on all audits, not something that's necessarily specific to the authority here. Audit standards require that for every audit we consider journal entries, because that is a way in which management could override controls should they wish to. We are required to look at any significant unusual transactions, and we are also required to look at management estimates. And you'll see that actually quite a lot of the other plans relate to the latter two in terms of unusual transactions and estimates in here. In terms of the risk of fraud and revenue recognition, Again, that is another risk that is mandated under audit standards, but everybody we are required to consider the risk of fraud in revenue recognition, and in that we've assessed it's most likely to occur in relation to the income stream that's fees, charges and other service income, and around the cut-off in which year that's reported in. Practice Note 10 for public sector auditors extends that mandatory risk from fraud in revenue recognition to fraud in expenditure recognition. So we've looked at the expenditure streams of the authority and assessed that actually that's most likely to occur through inappropriate capitalisation of revenue expenditure. And the reason for that is that's kind of a 1 year hit. You can remove the expenditure impact in 1 year and then release it over several years through the depreciation charge. So that is quite a common risk in the local authority sector because of the nature of the reporting framework. Valuation of land and buildings. So again, the authority holds material land and buildings. You know, all valuations involve a lot of assumptions. A small movement in assumption could lead to a risk of material misstatement. Given that this will be our first year of audit in the valuation of land and buildings for the authority, and we don't have any experience of working with those values previously, we have reported that as a significant risk for 24-25. We are likely to use our own EY real estate specialist to support us in the audit of those balances. The next point is around, this is one that's relevant to the group, consolidated financial statements rather than the authority itself, and it's into the material goodwill in relation to the acquisition of Teesside International Airport. Management performed an annual assessment of this balance for impairment, which again uses a lot of judgments and assumptions. And given that it's new to us, we've never looked at this before, we have reported that as a significant risk. And I think we're starting some work on that if it hasn't been done so already in the near future. The next one is around the account for the Tees Works leases. So the authority uses land for the Tees Works site, and is also a sublease to a private sector partner. Lease agreements, due to their very nature, are often complex, and judgment is required in assessing the appropriate account treatments, and as well as the implementation, such as effective interest rates. So we have, given that this is our first year of looking at these lease arrangements, we've also designated that as a significant risk. And similarly, along similar vein, the sale and lease back transaction around the new key, because they're such complex arrangements with big numbers, we have designated that as significant risk of material misstatement this year as well. Because we do have those disclaimed periods, as I referred to, we have got a bit of a, not a catch-all, but we have got an account for unusual transactions, so that covers if there's anything else in there that perhaps we're not aware of as we're going through our 24-25 audit work. And we will be alert to anything else that's a little bit unusual. But since our appointment, we have been having regular conversations with management about what's going on, so hopefully there shouldn't be too much in there. So the account for defined benefit pension scheme. So the authority is a member of the local government pension scheme and has the share of the gross assets, liabilities, net assets, liabilities in the accounts. This is another really judgmental area, lots of estimations, lots of assumptions used. Again, because this hasn't been looked at for a couple of years, and there have been, in that period, a lot of the pension funds, as Joyce, switched to a net asset position. There are specific rules and accounting regulations around the recognition of that net asset and how much should be recognised in the accounts, aligned with asset ceilings and all sorts of complicated things in the scheme rules. So given that this is the first year we'll be looking at it in detail, we have attached a significant risk to that for 24-25 as well. And that is, that's it all, but that is our risk, because I think there are quite a few there, but I think that's the nature of the fact that we're trying to cover as well some of the more historical transactions that will have an ongoing impact on the financial statements for 24-25. On the next page, we set out our materiality considerations. So you'll see that materiality, our overall materiality level, which is our planning materiality, and that's the threshold at which we'd say any errors above that level which aren't corrected in the financial statements, they are material, and that would stop us signing an opinion. We do set out here that for 23-24, in our audit completion report for the swing opinion, we used a materiality level of 1.25% as an initial set out. Part of our guidance is that we are required to consider the level of public interest and sort of attention to readers of the accounts and setting our materiality levels. So given the increased profile and the issue of the best value notes, we have that dropped that to 1% of gross expenditure on services for this year. And our performance materiality, so that's the level of work to which we perform our scoping into our detailed work, that is now 50% of plan materiality, and that's a fairly standard level for a new audit to us, and actually as well for an audit that's got the same period, because we don't have a historical knowledge of what's gone on in previous years. And then the audit differences, that's the threshold above which we will report any unadjusted errors to you, is those charged with covenants to the authority, and that's a standard calculation of 5% of our overall performance materiality level. On page 52 of the pack, so page 12, we set out our value for money responsibilities. Our risks are set out further on in the report, but I think just to draw the committee's attention, given the report that we had for 23-24, those risks of those significant weaknesses identified, both in terms of the investigation and recommendations coming out for TBCA and our recommendation in terms of the capacity of the finance team. We have got a risk of significant weakness in those areas there, so we will we have a work programme to follow to assess whether there is a risk of significant weakness in arrangements, but I think we flagged later on in the report that given the timing of when a lot of the reports and best value notes have come out, it is likely that we will conclude there are some significant weaknesses in arrangements, but what that won't stop us doing is reporting any kind of improvements that management have made since that date in our auditor's annual report, which is due to come to you by the 30th of November this year. That's a new requirement under the National Audit Office Code of Practice that regardless of whether or not an opinion is signed, and we are still able to sign by the 30th of November, but if that didn't happen, we would still be required to present to you our value for money commentary by that time, so you're getting that real-time, up-to-date information. The other point, I guess, is group audit scope, so we touched on that in some of the risks. We are still working through that, finalising it, but in terms of the group audit scope, we expect that South-Tees Development Corporation will be a full scope audit, so what that means is we'd expect a full audit to be done, to be consolidated into the group financial statements of TBCA, but that's not a problem because as auditors of South-Tees Development Corporation ourselves, we're doing that statutory audit and we have close work in between the two teams. In fact, a lot of the senior team on the same, so that shouldn't really make things feel too different from one way to do it. I'm happy to take any questions because I'm conscious there's a lot in the executive summary, never mind the rest of the report, so happy to take any questions from members.
Thank you for that, Claire. Yeah, there is a lot in there, isn't there? So yeah, does anybody have any questions or comments in relation to that?
Yeah,
yes,
thank you, Chair. Just on, to go back to the words that you used, accounting for unusual transactions. What are you using to determine that definition?
So is this in terms of our specific risk we've got?
It's where you guess
penultimate
significant risk, yeah.
Yeah, so I think for that we'd be looking for anything. So there's obviously things in there that we'd expect to see. So we'd expect to see grant income, we'd expect to see expenditure on the delivery of services and all that kind of thing. If there's anything that we haven't picked out that is, for example, a different lease agreement or just something that we're not aware of, then we'll pull it out through that route. I don't think we necessarily expected to see anything in there. That's more of saying that we don't probably have full understanding that we might have had in another audit.
Yeah, I guess it's how you know if it's different. That's the question to it, or how would you know that something was different from a transaction list?
So we go through our sampling in the usual way, and I guess it depends on the evidence that comes back. So you do get quite a good feel if it's not an invoice, if it comes back with there's a contract or there's something like that, then we'd always go back to what's the originating source of the transaction, and by doing that we would then pick up anything that doesn't come through the usual transaction flow process. We'll actually also use our data analytics as well, so through that we can map the transaction flows to see where they're going. If we see any unusual combinations or anything hitting unusual account codes that we wouldn't expect to see, we'll pick those out and have a look at what's driving that as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? I've just got one there in terms of the accounting for defined benefit pensions. Obviously the risk on that has changed, obviously, and it's an increased risk. Can you just give us a bit more detail around why we see that as an increased risk in terms of the authority?
And it is because of that flip of many local government pension schemes into the net asset position, because there are some complex rules around how much of that asset you can recognise on your own individual balance sheet. And I guess because the audit, the accounts haven't been completed since for the last couple of years, there is the ongoing impact of the application of the asset ceiling, so we just need to work that through and check. The actuary can give you that information, so we just need to check that the right information has been requested from the actuary and is all its way through the accounts, and then there are some criteria around penalty recognition as well, so we do have to find a work programme for it. It's more the fact that we haven't audited it in the past couple of years that's increased the risk of error.
And would you not get that reassurance from the actuary, because they obviously do that as part of their actuarial work as well?
They do some of it. We then need to go on and assess the potential recoverability of it. And there's also some actuaries, and I don't know here, but some actuaries don't include it in the overall IAS 19 report. They'll do it separately, and that again can trigger differences. If it's separate to the main IAS 19 report, that might include issues. So we just need to work through all of that process.
Thank you. Any other questions on those yet? Councillor Coleman?
Just a quick one. Obviously, the original report was written before the guidance was actually given to you, the official guidance. So I know you sort of touched on it a little bit. So the risks and area of focus, obviously you've got no change, new risks. Has that made any difference to them, or were you happy to just stick with as it was? Has the changes been detrimental to your initial report?
So for 24-25, I think our focus will remain the same, looking at auditing that closing balance sheet and the income statement in there. So that doesn't change this risk assessment here. What we will do as we work through the guidance issued by the National Audit Office is effectively assess the risk of your historical transactions. Now, a lot of that students we can hopefully gain from the work programme that we're doing this year. So this is more likely to be extra work in 25-26 and 24-25 by the time we work it through. In some ways, by the time you audit 24-25, because you're not the same as, for example, your local council, you haven't got your separate HRA or your collection fund and all of those things where you have lots of adjustments between reserves, it might actually be a more straightforward process here to rebuild the reserves, but we just need to do that work and work it through. Hopefully by the time we come to report to you in our audit results report at the end of November, we'll have more of a timeline and we'll be able to show you where you are in terms of a timeline for working that through to get back to a position where you have the clean opinion on your opening reserves.
Sure. Can I also ask, obviously you mentioned, like say for instance, the goodwill at Teesside International Airport, and it wasn't done by your predecessors. I'm a bit surprised that they wouldn't have incorporated that into their report. I'm just saying that I'm glad you have been more thorough than I would say than your predecessor. It just it highlights how certain things potentially could have been missed by the previous auditors.
Yeah, and I think it depends on their risk assessment as well, doesn't it, where it flows through. But yeah, but for us, because we don't understand it, we popped it as a significant risk this year. It's not to say it will be next year. But
no, but I think it also adds to the transparency and clarity that people that read this that wouldn't have gauged it or thought of it before. So I think it's a good addition.
thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to continue on, Claire, or have you got any other bits under section 2? Or
I'm happy just to take questions.
Yeah.
The rest of it just sort of fills out the procedure that we'd be happy to do, that we plan to do to address it. So happy to take questions on any elements of it.
yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions on the remainder of the report at all?
Chair?
Yes, certainly.
I know we sort of discussed it prior, and just for the record, so obviously you've got the timeline, which I commented, and I do think it's actually a good indicator for people who might not understand it exactly. And I'm quite impressed with the report. Can you just clarify, well, I'm just getting to it now, clarify, obviously from July on to October, substantive testing?
Yeah.
Can you just give a little bit more clarity on that, please, if possible?
Yeah, so that is the detailed audit work and when it starts. So it is across that period, so we're starting across the whole group this week, I think. But TVCA we've got plans which we're sharing with management it will do with that is the detailed testing, and I think what's important to make sure we get through there for the group is the regular touch points. So my team have got regular touch points with Gary's team. Gary and I join those every once a fortnight so that we make sure things are going to plan. And I think that's going to be the key process to make sure that we get through that July to the end of October period. But this is the period where we start the nitty-gritty of the audit work, as we like to call it.
Thank you. Any other questions at all, Claire?
Yeah, sorry, Chair.
Yes,
I think one of the sticking points a few years ago was the valuation of land or the valuation of assets at the time. I know you mentioned you've got EY property concerns.
Yeah.
Where do you think that sits in this cycle of the review? Are you envisaging a difference or?
The honest answer is I don't know yet, and I haven't seen the assumptions used by your current valuer. The team may look at those, I haven't looked at those myself. So it's something that we'll do early on in the process, because I know if there was a change, it can be quite a big number, if nothing else, to put through the financial statement. So that is something that we've got our EY real estate team to look at early on, but I don't have a feel for
Thank you. Just in terms of the timeline, Claire, obviously it's mapped out there for us to see. Are you confident that it's a realistic timescale in terms of what work is to be done and in deliverability on that?
Yeah, so we've got the resource booked in, we have a plan, we've got the resource booked in. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, I guess, so that's going to emerge during the audit process. But there is some contingency built in there as well as we go.
Yeah,
so I'm as confident as I can.
Yeah, it's good to hear that. Gary?
Yeah.
I think obviously it's a two-way street with that, isn't it? From our perspective, we've got to be ready to respond to the queries as well. I mentioned before we brought in some interim resource as well to help us with production and also through the audit process as well, and they're contracted with us, so in addition to the team that we've got. So I think the key bits, as Claire set out, that the sort of regular weekly and fortnightly catch-ups, raising any exception or any issues of things that need escalating or dealing with. Sometimes you need additional information. It could be to do with values, but it could be to do with any number of things in the audit, and as long as we're responsive with that, I think it's going to be the key throughout the audit. Make sure we've got responsiveness to the inquiries that are made and answering the questions as well. So we'll make sure we're monitoring that and we're tracking. We've got a dedicated administrative resource. Make sure any actions that are raised are immediately flagged to the relevant people. So you're not losing working days of time, somebody not realising there's a query there or something else on portals and things like that. So we've got a regular sort of engagement on that as well.
I think it's worth us noting that, you know, the feedback from the colleagues is that, you know, the relationship is working really well together, you know, with yourself and the team. So, you know, I think it's all credit to you and the teams, and that seems to be working much stronger and better across the board with everybody. So I think it's really good, and we should acknowledge that to the teams as well. It's, you know, seems to be working really well, and you know, and the relationship's really strengthened, I think, hasn't it? So thank you for all the work that everybody's done on that, really. Any other questions at all from anybody on Claire's report? No? I think, let me just check, because I just need to go back to the beginning. I think it was just a note. Sorry. So the recommendations for this committee is just that we note the update of the both reports, I think it was, isn't it? Yeah, of the provided Tees Valley Combined Authority single entity and the group audit for the financial year 23-24, and note the provisional audit planning report for the end of March 2025. So we're happy to note those. Yeah. Thank you. I think we're up to Andrew. I was going to say, is it internal audit progress update report? Is it? Yeah. Is that yourself? Are you doing that one? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we've got that report. There's been quite significant progress made on some of the legacy actions.
Thank you.
I thought I was loud. Sorry, So there's been quite a lot of progress made on some of the legacy actions within the audit. We've closed quite a few out, but there has been, I think there's 8 in management information and 1 in grants management that we've extended due to some baselining work we're doing in conjunction with the best value notice, where we baseline our processes, which is going to have an impact on them legacy actions. So we're taking a breath on that at the moment and working through them with some extended dates. We are actively working to get them closed. Obviously, we are very aware that they've been on this report for some time, but there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to make sure that we either get them closed down or, like I say, reassessed in line with the current situation. I'm open to any questions on internal audit.
Thanks for that, Angela. Councillor Grogan?
Hi Angela. Just on a quick look there, you've got the STDC, SIF the implementation follow-up review. Most concluded, conclude 16 are complete, 2 not due, 1 no action required. What was the 2 overdue again, if you can remind me? It's on page 98 of the pack.
Yeah, Gary, do you want to come in? Yeah.
They were both, Councillor, they were both in relation to the Internal Audit Service. One was in relation to making sure that the accounts opinion and the work for the financial year 24-25 is complete, which I'm sure we're going to come on to in due course next time on the agenda. And then also there was making sure that the team familiarise themselves with the organisation. We run inductions, so we've offered to induction work in terms of orientation about the group and the organisation to the actual internal audit team, and that's sort of the actual practitioners on the ground in terms of how they interface with the organisation, not just senior management as well, which I'm grateful for Andy and the team have agreed to sort of make themselves available for that, and we're organising that as we speak.
So when are we looking for, obviously one that we're going to discuss later on, but the second one that you just mentioned there, when are we looking for that to be complete?
It'll be the next available induction rounds that we've got that we're doing, which I think, from memory, within the next few months that'll be done.
Okay. Thanks for that. Just in relation to a comment within the report, it just says about the business continuity planning and the transfer of that. Has that made any significant changes that we need to be aware of, or was it just literally a transfer to another area? Or?
Yeah, it was a transfer to another area, Chair. So that was previously given to me when I started in October. When we've reassessed, it just sits in another area, so it's transferred into another team within the operations group who's making significant progress on that now. I think we brought it to a certain point, and it's the control testing, so they're going to run with that.
Yeah. And will that still get reported through the same mechanism?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
there's no change to the reporting element
no.
of it? No. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, Gary? Yeah.
I think it was just to draw members' attention to the table. It's on page 98 of the pack where we've got a whole summary of the 2024-25 audits, because there's been a phenomenal amount of work done by the Internal Audit Service team and the relevant areas and the operational areas across the group to make sure that these are completed, so that we can have a timely completion of the audits and an opinion for 24-25 financial year in good time, i.e. imminently now, which Andy will come on to talk about, which is at the right time when you'd expect it at March year end, and having an internal audit opinion within a few months of that is what you would expect, and that's what we're going to be delivering. But that's taken a significant amount of work, and then the planning for the current year is making sure that that's smoothed out across the remainder of the financial year for 25-26 with, again, Andy can talk about the audit sort of strategy for next year. So I just want to place on record thanks to the internal audit team, TIA and the team, because there's been a phenomenal amount we've had to manage there along with the staff as well to respond to those audits as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, and yeah, absolutely. You know, it's good to see that we've got dates against things and it's all moving forward. And like you say, the near completion, some of them, so you know, eventually they'll start and drop off as well in terms of that progress and the final dates and things. So yeah, no, thanks to everybody for their commitment to that. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, just on the business continuity planning, the recommendation on page 97 of the pack. I mean, the business continuity planning was a 22-23 audit. We've still got this not done. It just seems worrying, really. Yeah. You know, do we know when it's going to be done? You know, and are the staff in place?
So we've put the target in for the end of Q2. And that's mainly the body of the business continuity plans there. It's just the control testing around it. So we're looking at a risk-based approach to identify some of the controls needed. I'm very confident now that it's switched from my ownership into a more suitable area to be able to successfully get that control testing completed. We've seen some movement on that definitely in the last few weeks, and with the cyber security as well, with some control testing that we've performed. So it's moving along, and it's definitely in the right place to be completed by the end of Q2.
Oh, great, thank you.
Thank you. And obviously, just for the clarity for the group, it's not that we don't have a continuity plan, is it?
It is the revision of the continuity plan. We've got one
we've
that's...
got a plan.
Yes, we do have a plan. Yes.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Any other comments or questions on the report from Angela? No. Thank you. I think it was just again from Norton. I'll just double check. So the recommendation was just to consider the analysis and audit progress out in the paper and acknowledge the annual audit schedule. So I'm happy with that. Yeah. Thank you. So the next agenda item number 7, is the TIA Internal Audit Annual Report 24-25. Andrew, can you hear us still? You're online
I
there?
can, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. If I could just propose a slight change to the order and just take the annual report as the final one, because all of those other reports feed into it. And so if we don't mind starting on page 111 of your pack with the governance review, and then we'll do the reviews and come back to the opinion, if that's okay.
That's great. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. So obviously there's quite a lot on here, so I'll take them as read and just pick out some of the key points. So the first one on the agenda is the governance review for TVCA. Key points arising from this were there wasn't a defined recruitment process for cabinet audit subcommittees. Role descriptions were also not documented for committees. The member induction process needs to be strengthened into relation when they are delivered, because it's been done on an annual basis so far, so members could turn up to a number of meetings without having that induction, which isn't fair on them, and you're not getting best use out of everybody. You do have a code of conduct which was found to be very detailed, however, unusually no requirement for members to sign up to adhere to that code. At the present time, there's no formal appraisal process for members of committees, and also we picked up that improved training and session planning is needed, so the elected members' skills are supplemented with the independent members' skills. And we also picked up a lower level recommendation around the register of interest for members not quite being fully up to date, to making sure that that's done. We do appreciate that as you started this meeting, you do have declarations at every meeting, but that form should be completed. So we made recommendations in relation to all of those areas. Management have accepted them, we discussed it with them, we're happy with the implementation dates. Some do stray into 2026, but that's because other things need to be done for that to happen, so we're okay with that. However, overall, we do need to assign a limited assurance to this piece of work. Happy, Chair, if there's any questions on that one.
Thank you for that, Andrew. Any comments or questions on the first one, issuance review of the governance TVCA? No. And I think, Andrew, just to note that it's obviously you've identified a few areas there for management, but as you say, it's good that management have accepted those findings, and there's obviously dates set in there then to obviously to complete those. So it'll be good to see as they progress throughout the year. Gary, do you want to come in? Yeah.
I think because we're dovetailing anything to do with governance, you'll be aware the best value notice, one of the aspects was governance, so we're making sure we dovetail any sub pieces of work or any other bits like this is all woven into the updates we give to the improvement board as part of the overall best practice, because otherwise you end up with disparate pieces of work in different areas, so we just make sure we bring it all together under the improvement board so that they get visibility on any governance related items that are coming up, whether for this committee with this particular item you're looking at here or whether it's somewhere else as well.
Yeah, certainly, yeah.
We've taken some feedback from members around register of interest forms and the sort of disparate way that members receive information from our governance team. So what we're working on this week is to ensure that members get one pack of information from their designated governance officer, so they know exactly at the beginning of the municipal year where all the documents are that they need to refer to. There is a document in there which requires them to sign up to adherence to the Code of Conduct. There is a copy of the Code of Conduct in there. There is the Register of Interest form, there'll be some guidance notes. So that pack will come out to each member of each board and committee to provide a more streamlined approach to inducting members. So that's the starting point, and we'll tick off a number of these recommendations, and then we'll be looking at the induction process as well.
Thank you. It's good to hear, like you say, that there are some things coming through. So yeah, I'm sure members will benefit from some of that. Absolutely, and and particularly when you're bringing in new members at the beginning of sort of the municipal year as well. So I think that'll be really useful to people. Any other comments or questions on that one at all? No. Thank you, Andrew. Do you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, we could probably pick the next two up together.
Yeah.
Municipal Development Corporation and Hartlepool Development Corporation. Very, very similar ones that we've just seen. Recruitment processes, role descriptions, registers of interest, skills matrix. We did pick up on the Middlesbrough one that the Constitution does need to be updated to reflect the recent approval increasing members to a maximum of 10. I think it was 8 before. But we appreciate that couldn't have been done by the time of our audit, but that's just to make sure it doesn't get missed. Also, has been around. It actually says in terms of reference that performance reviews should be undertaken, but obviously they've met once or twice formally so far, so it's not quite appropriate. So again, that recommendation is in to make sure that it gets picked up at the appropriate time and then going forward from there. So both of those again attract a limited assurance, but they're very, very similar things that we found in the TBCA one. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, Emma's just going to give a quick update on that one.
Yeah, I can confirm that the Middlesbrough and Hartlepool Development Corporations have been updated now to reflect that change in board membership, Andrew.
Thank you.
I'll pick that up on the follow-up then.
Thanks, Andrew. Any questions
Yeah.
to Andrew on the Middlesbrough one at all? No? Was there anything specific on the Hartlepool one, Andrew, that you wanted to provide?
No, I mean, they were exactly almost identical.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're both formed similar sort of times. They've only met a few times, so yeah, nothing really there.
Any comments or questions on the Hartlepool Development Corporation one? Andrew Evans, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just in terms of the appraisal process, Andrew, that was mentioned in the Tees Valley one, but where and who do you see fulfilling the role of the appraisal?
Is that directly?
Yes.
We would normally see the chair of committees do the appraisals with members, and then we would expect potentially in your situation the chair of, just trying to think, next chair who you report into would probably do the chair of this committees.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on that one? No, thank you. So the South Tees Development Corporation, Andrew?
Yeah, so this actually sits within their own annual plan, so I report it to them and it forms part of their opinion, but it's still, so it's really just there for your information so you're aware, and again, very similar areas to the other entities that you've just seen.
Yeah. Thank you. Any comments or questions on that one? No. Thanks, Andrew, for that one. So I think we've got the review of the ICT, cybersecurity.
Yeah, so again, this is information, the first one is STDC's audit. Things for them to look at to determine if they should have cyber assurance, carrying out a risk assessment to see that, ensure that they document their own policies and procedures, as they tend to follow yours, but they're not designated for them. They don't have vulnerability scanning and management system in place. They're not universally using multi-factor authentication, although you'll see in the management comments there is a discussion about whether contractors can have that, but you can get apps on their phones that would validate it, so they're looking into that. And some strengthened reporting to the senior management and STDC is required as well. And we've also picked up this thing around passwords, which I'll pick up in the next review. But again, that's just your information, and this one has a reasonable assurance, which for cyber is a good place to be.
Thanks for that, Andrew. Just for colleagues, if you're a bit lost, we're on page 158. Just no, it's quite easy to get lost on where we're at things. Just a couple on that one, Andrew. There's obviously on this one particularly, there's a couple of dates that have either passed or today. Have you got reassurance around those particular entities? Because there's quite a lot really that are either expired or are due to expire today.
Yeah, as I said, we'll pick that up on our follow-up review, which I'll talk about when we talk about the annual report. But what we like to see with recommendations is we try not to follow them up immediately after implementation date, because we don't just want a box tick to say something's being done, we need to see it embedded.
Yeah.
So around about a half year, so 3 months time, in September, we'll pick up all of the things and we'll report back.
Right,
to
that's
that.
great. Yeah, no, that's great. That gives us that clarity. Thank you. Anybody else any other questions on that one, Paul? No, thank you. Cyber security for TVCA, anything on that one particularly, Andrew?
No, just not. This one really was low-level recommendations compared to the previous one.
Yeah.
The processes are directed by documented TVCA policies and procedures. So they are low-level, more housekeeping things about asset management policy needed to be improved. It was still sat in draft. Asset owner records, they were there, but they needed to be improved. We're suggesting that introducing monitoring of large data exports is a good thing, because that could be somebody taking data to share with people. Increasing the frequency of phishing simulations rather than just once a year. You know, cyber needs to be embedded in there, the thoughts about it. And they do have cyber assurance that was going through, and to say that was being completed. One of the things around the passwords, because everybody in the past has always had these passwords, and every 90 days you get a nice thing that starts changing it. Well, the National Cyber Security Centre said actually that's not the safest way, because what happens is everybody then starts writing the password down on a piece of paper, and they just change the last character every time. So it's actually better to have a slightly more complex one of 12 characters, and then that stays in situ all the time. So that's the password thing that I mentioned in the other one as well. So again, with this one, you know, a reasonable assurance can be assigned with those, although there's a few of them, they are lower-level housekeeping type recommendations. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Andrew. Gary, did you want to come in there?
Just an update, the phishing simulations the initial ones have taken place. We've had reports back to exec team, we've had follow-ups on that as well, so it's been really positive. It's very clear, the reporting as well, because I was you're always a bit as an exec member thinking how technical is this reporting going to be, but actually it's pretty straightforward in terms of what you're looking at. It RAC assesses where you are with any particular issues with the simulations and things to think about, messaging to staff, and that goes out to staff as a follow-up as well, so that's been really good.
Thanks for that, Andrew. I think it's just for noting, isn't it? Obviously, you know, we hear in the press all the time now of more cyber incidents, so, you know, it's something that every organisation now does need to strengthen it, and, you know, there's some clear, you know, actions here to just strengthen that further for the combined authority, so that's really good to see that. And like you say though as well, Andrew, just gives us that reassurance, because you say the more low level as well, so that provides a bit of comfort around that as well for the committee, so thanks for that update. Anybody got any other questions? Yes, Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, Chair, you mentioned that there. Obviously, Redcar and Cleveland is well documented to have been the victim of malware, and it was also a BBC iPlayer documentary as well. It was before my time, but I think it cost the government and the local authority something around about 12 million quid just to get it sorted. So I don't know if I struggle to get things done normally. They've gone back over in time because I feel like they've put extra precautions in place for their cyber and their websites and things like that. I don't know if you had any discussions with them how they do it or anything like that, because obviously we try to follow what's good practice or what's bad practice to make sure we avoid either or go with.
Yeah, I couldn't see off the top of my head. I mean, it's a different team, but we can ask the question. But I'm sure that you know, we've got somebody in there now who's got a great degree of expertise in terms of these areas, and has been introducing quite a lot of good positive measures like the phishing simulations, etc., within the organisation, as well as looking at passwords and things like that as well. So there's a lot of work going on with a dedicated IT lead now in that area. But we can double check. I mean, they always take, because we've got the 5 local authorities, we've got good connections and contacts there. There's natural links between the departments. We also have our support services for ICT at Firm Central, which is the Stockton-Darlington local authorities sort of partnership vehicle that they use as well. So we're quite aligned with Stockton and Darlington as well in terms of the security systems and processes in place as well.
It's just to follow on, if that's okay, Chair, is obviously how the cyber attack happened in Redcar, Cleveland. It was embedded into their computer systems for about a year or two even prior to activation. So I'd hope that nothing's got through the net prior to implementing all these new changes. I've been a little bit concerned, obviously, if it's being raised as a small risk, but it's still a risk.
Anything else, Andrew, on that one for yourself?
I just say that's a very good point that Councillor Grogan raises there about it. I mean, you know, it's these days, and if you see the things with M&S and Co-op, etc., it's not someone hacking into your system with another computer. It's a member of staff generally that clicks on a link, and that allows their software to come in. So those phishing things and the awareness and is very key. We've had a big campaign in TIA recently internally about it, so much so that last month when the latest training email was issued to everybody, many people flagged it as potential phishing and deleted it and reported it, and it was a genuine one. So that's a better place to be than actually clicking on it first. But awareness is the key thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions on that one, Tom? No. Thank you for that one. We're getting there, Andrew. We're getting there. We're getting towards the end. Assurance review of Hartlepool Development Corporation project management.
Yeah, so we did a project management one, I think, in each of the entities. So this was for Hartlepool Development Corporation, and this looked at the Middleton Green shopping centre lease that they took on. Could confirm that robust processes were in place in relation to the project. This included risk management, appropriate appraisals and business cases, board reporting, board approval, appointing of appropriate consultants and specialists, and also evidence to support undertaking a value for money assessment in line with the Local Government Association repurposing shopping centres review and best practice guide. And a review of that document showed that economic, social and environmental factors were considered to enable the acquisition and investment to go forward, including good operating costs, and also identifying opportunities for additional income and revenue going forward. We also looked at the sort of post-signing and the operation of it, and the monitoring, and that was very robust as well, financially, as reporting as well as narrative reporting, and no recommendations were raised. So I'm pleased to say that a substantial assurance for that piece of work. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Andrew. Any comments or questions on that one? I think just for me, it's good to hear that, you know, that there wasn't any findings on that. So I think, and it was, in the format that we would have expected it to be in. So it's really reassuring to hear that from the purchase period right through to the end process. So it's really good that the outcome is that for that particular one. Any other questions on that one? No.
I must admit, it's good to see nothing, but I don't know if it's just the line of work. Sometimes I like to see something, because it just seems too perfect on in Hartlepool. It's just obviously they're doing a cracking job over there by the looks of it.
Yeah, thank you. And Andrew, can you, obviously, like we say, it's really good that when we do get them, isn't it? Can you just explain sort of a little bit more as to the detail maybe that went into on that particular one?
I can. I mean, it's just bear with me 1 second while I Yeah, I mean, so what we've done on that one is, you see, originally the reviews were just going to be sort of project management reviews, but actually we said if we tie them into a specific thing, not only can we look at the framework that you've got in place for project management, we can look at actually it in practice and see how it works. So the auditor looked into quite a significant amount of information, looking at how it came about in the first place and the reasoning why, and why they thought it would be a good idea. It then looked at all of the appraisals that were done before it got business case to board for approval. It then looked at the various consultants and specialists that you use and the appropriateness of them to make sure that the information was right going forward. We look at risk management and have the identified risk management, and if I remember rightly, I think there's still 4 risks that are open, but they're appropriate to be open because they're about the ongoing operation of the centre. And I think one of the other things was that there was a good scheme of delegation that was set up as well, so that anything that needed to be done could be done quite quickly, because you appreciate in these sorts of processes when you're taking on a shopping centre like that, you need to be able to move quickly if things change. So it was very, very, very robust.
No, it is reassuring to hear that. So no, thank you very much for that. Any other questions on that one? No. Thank you for that one. Go down, get in there.
Yeah, so this is again another
STDC project management. Yeah, so just for people,
Yeah,
page 185 if people are a little bit lost.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go on, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this is just for your information because it's on their plan, but it was well-run, detailed business case, financial modelling, risk analysis, all the documentation was there, and it was shown to change throughout the project, so it's not just set in stone, they are reviewing it regularly. Good project management arrangements in place in relation to change control as well, progress monitoring, and then in this case, very robust controls over payments, making sure that they are appropriately signed off before they even go for payment. We also picked up on this one and look at the procurement exercise for the main contractor. We can confirm that was compliant and comprehensive as well. So yet again, and unusually, no recommendations were raised and substantial assurance. These are harder reports to write when you don't have a number of recommendations, so they do cover quite a lot of detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions or comments on that one? Yes, Andrew.
In danger of embarrassing myself, but on page 186 it says awarded to Graham. Is that an acronym or is that somebody's name?
It's Graham's Construction.
Oh, okay, alright. I was in danger.
It should probably be an S after it, for grammatic.
I think because they were just changing that just a little bit.
Graham's done quite well out of that one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely.
Just 182.
Page
186.
186, Andrew. Yeah.
186, yeah, I'll get that changed.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on that one? No. Thanks for that one, Andrew. And the next one, we are page 192. Assurance review of Teesside International Airport.
Yeah, so this was originally the subsidiary review that was in the original plan. And what we picked up on was we looked at the FedEx contract at the airport. And again, it followed a good process, identification of the opportunity, the development of a business case, an appropriate proposal and approval route. What we did pick up on, so everything was good and it was okay. There's no sort of commercial decision policy or guidance or process in place that would ensure a consistency in the process every time we did something. So that's one of our recommendations. We also picked up on this one that there was a couple of significant changes that were made during the process of it. Both of them seemed to be justified. There was good evidence that was signed off, but again, no mechanism to formally log them. So a change log for that would have been a much better one and given a clear audit trail. So we have made a couple of recommendations in this piece of work, and that allows us to assign this one with reasonable assurance.
Thanks for that, Andrew. And obviously in the comments, it's good to see again that management have accepted those and are looking to implement those changes as well. So yeah, thank you. Any questions or comments on that one? No. Thanks for that one, Andrew. And the last one you've got there in the end. Draft report, TBCA project audit, UK SPF.
Yeah, so we've actually had this back with a management comment in the operational effectiveness matter, and we've issued a couple of hours ago the final report on this, but there's been no changes. So again, comprehensive implementation plan was developed, approved by government, and that formed the basis of the investment priorities. Our audit did a raft of compliance testing that confirmed that appropriate programme monitoring and oversight arrangements were in place throughout. The actual project delivery was monitored against an assurance framework with predetermined targets and outcomes, and they were well reported on. The funding was, the available funding that was there was used, and please say came in within the budget parameters that were set. As I say, we have identified what we've seen in operational effectiveness matter rather than a control issue, and it's just about ongoing monitoring of benefits. And we appreciate in this case that the post-project reporting portal closed fairly quickly after the original UKSPF thing finished. But we're saying in the future, it would be a good idea for future programmes potentially to have that resource available earlier, and then you can do that. So we're not saying there's any control issue, it's just something that might make it better for yourselves going forward. And with that one, no recommendations and the substantial assurance.
Thank you for that update there, Andrew. Any questions for Andrew on that particular one? Thank you for that. I think that's everything from your side, Andrew, isn't it? Or have you got any other comments?
No, we need to jump back to page 105 for our annual report.
Sorry.
Because I messed you about
You
there.
did, 105. Yep, page 105, thank you. Yeah, keep it right. Thank you.
Oh, that's ready for 25. Start by confirming TIA's approach was based on what at the time was the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing and the public sector internal audit standards. They were superseded this year by the global internal audit standards that were adopted by the public sector ones in April. So as required, we'll form a report against those standards in 25-26. So originally the plan that you approved as a committee was for 69 days for TVCA with an additional 12 days assigned for Hartlepool Development Corp and 13 for Middlesbrough. Going forward, the two development corporations will have their own individual plans for 25-26 and their own opinion statements, but they're rolled up into this one for this year. The only change we made to the plan was the deferral of the follow-up review. If you recall that the previous year's work was delayed for completion, so we'd actually only really done the follow-up in the start of January, February time. So to then do it again didn't really make very much sense and add any value to yourselves for doing it then. So what we've done is we've used those days and we're going to put them into 25-26 plan, and we're going to give you a half-year, mid-year follow-up and then a follow-up a year end as normal. So you're a few days later in this year and you'll be a few days more next year, but they'll balance themselves out. So overall, we carried out 9 reviews that were to provide assurance ratings. They're in the table, 3 of them being limited, which we've talked about just now on the 3 governance ones. We did make 21 priority 2 important and 12 priority 3 routine recommendations, but pleased to say there's no priority 1 urgent recommendations raised in any of the pieces of work we've done. The bulk of the recommendations, so 88%, sit within the governance and compliance risk areas. So next year we'll be able to compare and just see if the percentages dropped and been moved as you get better with your policies, processes, your reporting and your compliance. I can confirm that we've had no limitations or restrictions placed on us that would impair our independence or objectivity of the service. The one shortfall in the KPI table is that follow-up report, which is probably a bit harsh to say we failed on doing that because it's been deferred for a reason. And then my screen's just come back. Yeah, page 109 just summarises the work completed as per the plans, just to confirm, and kindly one of the councillors pointed out that the 65 and 69 has been transposed in the report. So when I issue the final report, which will come out tomorrow, I'll put that right. So that takes me back to page 106 in our Head of Internal Audit's annual opinion that says that TIA is satisfied that for the areas reviewed during the year, TBCA, including areas reviewed for Middlesbrough Development Corporation and Hartlepool Development Corporation, has reasonable and effective risk management control and governance processes in place. Appreciate there's a lot of taking in one meeting, but that's a good opinion statement to get. I can confirm that we are underway with the planning for 25-26. I've already met with the Audit and Governance Chair for Middlesbrough Development Corporation. I've got a meeting booked with the Audit and Governance Chair for Hartlepool, and emails out for yourself, Chair, and STDC Chair to discuss the list of potential pieces of work. We'll get those work booked in as soon as we've got the plans drawn up, and put it on record now. We'll complete that by the end of March 2026. And just to finish, I just reiterate, sort of on the back of what Gary said, I'd like to thank management and staff across the whole of the group for their engagement, and not just provision of evidence, but provision of their time as well. You know, when they've got day jobs to do, to get the work completed, because we've delivered the whole plan in about 4.5, whole year's plan in 4.5 months. So it's not just us that's done it, it's the staff across the group as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, and I think from this committee as well, just to echo those comments, it hasn't been easy, and it has been a lot in a very short space of time, isn't it? So thanks to yourself and the staff for working together to get it to this point. It's really reassuring that we've got that opinion now, and in the time scale that you have delivered that. So thanks to everybody that's been involved in that. Any questions or comments at all for Andrew on that particular point? Councillor Brogan, yeah.
Just a quick one. Obviously, we've got on the performance measures completion of your planned audits. We've attained 91%. Is that the follow-up that drops it down? Is that what that is?
It is, yes.
Right. Okay.
We've got some extended performance indicators for next year, which include, we've always internally had issue of a draft report within 10 days, so they'll go on as well. And we've also introduced one around getting the reports back from the client within 10 working days as well, just to show that if there are any delays where they may be, so we're going to be as transparent as we can be. But yes, it was just that one review that cost us 100%.
Keep you on your toes for the next one.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andrew. Any other comments or questions? No, thank you. Just checking, because I'll just go back to the recommendation board. Sorry,
just
yes.
Well, I was a bit late putting my hand
No,
up.
sorry, don't worry.
Just one thing, audits completed in the time allocation. I mean, if you did find that you'd struck something other than gold and it was going to take longer than the time allocation, presumably you would give it the extra days that it needed.
We would, if it was a significant effect to the audit completion, then we would liaise with Victoria and Gary to discuss additional time that may be needed. I would say that some of them probably went over very slightly, but we just swallow that up within our fee that we've already quoted. We don't come back. It would have to be something significant and something that we could justify before we did that.
Smashing, but you would do it. That's what I expected. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No. So the recommendations for this report is recommended that the committee considering and comments on the TIA draft internal audit annual report and notes the reports issued since the previous committee. So we're happy with those recommendations? Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew, for your time today. I know you were wanting to get away, so yeah. Thank you very much. Unless anybody's got any other questions for Andrew, I think Andrew is going to get away. No.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. So the next agenda item number 8, TVCA single entity, the group statement accounts for the year ending 31st of March 2024.
Yeah,
that, Chair. Is that you, Gary? Yeah, thank you.
So just to begin with a bit of an apology, there was a lot of information came out at the end of last week. These financial statements for 23-24 have already been to the committee, but during the 24-25 audit, we identified, working with our audit colleagues, an item which we set out in this cover paper that we issued, where there's a change to provisions. So this is following the conclusion of the legal case with PD, where we've got quantifiable numbers, and therefore we wanted to restate into the year which it relates, 23-24 accounts, a further £1 million of provision. that flows in there. So rather than leave that as an uncorrected item that we know about, and things have moved on, we wanted to update to reflect the latest circumstances, and therefore the only change from the previous financial statements that the committee's had is that change in that £1 million provision to reflect that latest information that we got through whilst we were doing the 24-25 process. So we've corrected that, but everything else remains as it was.
Thanks for that update, Gary. Any questions or comments on that particular one? Councillor, yes.
Thanks. Yes, I did note that on page 11 in the minutes it says agenda items need to be published 5 clear working days in advance of the committee, so I was surprised to get stuff let in on Friday afternoon, but thanks very much anyway. Looking through it, I can see that in the provisions there's a difference of well 1,062,000, but I was looking for the double entry to that, and I wonder if you can just run through what else has changed as well, please, because I ended up, it looked as if there was 70,000 difference. I'm sure you know what it was and where it's gone.
Yeah, so the way that we work out through the accounts on the balance sheet, so the balance sheet is on page, just get the page?
13.
13, thank you. So you'll have the provisions are split between short and long-term provisions on there. So you have a long-term provision which is more in terms of repairs and maintenance, the £1 million that's in there, which is just above long-term liabilities bold subtotal. If you can see that, it's sort of halfway down, 3/4 of the way down the page. Just above your net assets, 3 lines up, you've got a provision side of £1 million. You can see that first.
Alongside note,
on the left-hand side.
Note 25.
Note 25.
Note 25 provisions.
Correct. Provisions. Note
Yeah.
25. You've got £1 million as a long-term liability. That's in relation to repairs. It's a different item. Yeah, but it's part of the provisions nevertheless. And then above, you have a short-term provision, which is further up. You're talking, just count the rows. 6 rows further up if you exclude totals. There's £1,079,000.
6. Oh, I've got. Well, current assets, short-term investments, inventories, debtors, cash and cash.
Further down, just further down, keep going.
I've got provisions alongside note 25.
That's right, £1,079,000.
Yeah, £1,079,000.
So that includes the £1,062,000
Yeah.
for PD, and there was 17,000 for a different item in there within the provisions note.
Yeah.
So they are within there.
So that's changed by 1,062,000.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
correct.
And the EMA General Fund reserves have also changed by the 1,062,000.
Yes.
But going over to the comprehensive income and expenditure statement, I was looking for the double entry and I got
It's been changed through the reserves, basically,
Yeah.
so that you've got on the balance sheet.
So you've got a difference on the top one, business growth, got 99.754 million now, and it was previously 98.622. So that was a difference of 1.132 million. So that's 70,000 difference compared with your 1.062 million.
There'll have been some presentational differences between headings, but nothing changing the I&E at the bottom of the I&E. The actual change for the provision is between EMA, as you pointed out, reserves and the provisions. It's both on the balance sheet.
Yeah. So what was the extra 70,000 there?
The elements within that, I'll get you the details on that, but they're just presentational changes between headings on the income and expenditure account. So they're just movements between the classifications, from whether it's a business growth item or whether it's following the work that we've done or whether it's to do with education, employment skills. So we just reclassified headings.
Maybe I've missed something then, because I ticked all the others off to the original thing.
I'm more than happy to get that for you. Yeah,
that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
But for the provision that's been accounted for, that's in the balance sheet, within reserves and with the provision.
Yeah. I'd just be interested to know, I mean, it looked as if the, what was it, 1.062 million the way I read the report, it looked as if that was all that had changed in the accounts, but when I started looking at the figures, you know, as I say, I found those other changes as well.
That's
So
fine.
if you can let me know what you have
Absolutely will,
changed.
yeah. We'll do that for the whole committee though, we'll do that for the committee.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the statement? So obviously the recommendation in here is for us to approve the audited accounts of TVCA single entity and group statements of accounts 23-24, note the disclaimed opinion to be issued by EY, and notes the amendment to provisions since the draft accounts in paragraph 8. Are we happy to do that? And obviously with the clarity from Gary based on the amendment of that figure, are we happy with that? That's like variance.
Yeah.
As long as the amendments are
Well, yeah, if we can have full details of what
Absolutely,
was different between the draft and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
final.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
No problem. Chair, could I be excused this one? I'm just completing the current year's set, 24-25. The deadline's today,
Just
so
got them on today.
Yes.
That was the question.
So if-
It's coming,
if I may
actually,
be
the
excused to
other day.
finalise that with the team, that'd be very
That
helpful.
would be great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Gary. Thank you for your...
And this lovely file of impeccable working papers with all the
Thank you.
statements of how
All
we
of that.
complied with
It's
all
nice to
the...
get them done on time for a change
All
as
of
well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
well done, especially
you,
if these
Gary.
are only getting signed off today.
Thank you.
Well done. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Back to the agenda, and I think we are up to agenda item 9. Yeah. Draft annual governance statement. Thank you, Emma. Is that yourself? Yeah. Thank you.
So this presents the committee the draft annual governance statement for the year 24-25. This will be published today with the draft financial statements. It will come back to this committee with the draft financial statements on the 11th of September, and again at the end of November with the final financial statements. It has been updated in the past week or so from the version you've got today following consultation with the Chief Executive and the Chair of Cabinet, but I'm happy to take any questions, any comments from the committee on this draft.
Thank you for that. Any comments or questions from anybody? Did you say there is some variation then, Emma, in this particular one? Could you just point out
So-
what the changes are?
So there's been some consultation with the TVCA Chief Executive and the Chair of Cabinet. So what we'll do is we'll circulate that version
Right, okay.
with
Yeah.
the track changes
Right,
to
yeah.
members of the committee.
Yeah, that would be good, yeah.
But it will come back as a draft for approval. This
Right,
is just
okay.
a note
Yeah.
prior to publication today.
Yeah.
It'll come back to this committee for approval with the draft financial statements as a draft on the 11th of September, and it'll come back again as a final for approval by this committee with the final financial statements at the end of November.
Yeah. That makes sense. So there'll still be a published version today.
There will
then
be a
the
published
process
version
will
today,
still
yes,
continue.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, thank you. Any comments or questions so far? Obviously, we will get sight of the further details as it moves
We
through
will
that process.
circulate to you the published
Final
version.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you. Any?
Sorry,
Yes,
pardon my ignorance. We've got third line down on page 260, but shall have a legal and finance advisor for STDC board. And then on page 217, third line up, but shall have a legal and finance advisor for STDC board. Pardon my ignorance, I've just wondered what legal and finance advisor was.
That should say lead.
Lead,
Lead.
or the D on the,
Yeah.
oh right, yeah. I was trying to turn it into lay and thinking that didn't make sense. Lead, thank you.
So that was following the recommendation
Yeah.
from the Tees Value Review
Ah,
around it was the approach from the Tees Value Review panel around statutory officers and whether or not statutory officers were conflicted. Following the publication of the Mayoral Development Corporation guidance on the 3rd of April, that clarified the law that the monitoring officer of the combined authority should also be the monitoring officer for the development corporations. But nonetheless, we now do have appointed lawyers employed by TVCA for each of the development corporations who provide advice on legal matters.
oh, smashing, thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Just one, I don't know if I'm okay to ask this, but the SIP for review, how much did that cost?
The SIP review that followed from the Tees Value Review recommendation recommendation?
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
off the top of my head, but we can certainly find out
Yeah.
for you. In terms of how much we paid SIP is that
Yes.
the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll certainly ask for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks very much.
Gary might have been able to answer if he was here.
Yeah.
I'll ask the question.
Yeah.
Typically goes on when the questions are asked for him.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, happy to note that, and yeah, we'll await the versions coming back to this committee for final approval. Thank you. Next item is agenda item number 12. I'll just check.
That was 9.
Sorry. There we go. Item number 10, annual reference of terms of reference.
Yeah.
So that's yourself.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know there's that many. I've been doing
Can
the
I
same.
just jump, sorry, can
You
I just
can.
jump back to
Absolutely, yeah.
just back to the attachments, what we sent with the annual governance statement, because in the annual governance statement we note around the number of freedom of information requests received, the number of information commissioner complaints, the number of complaints that have been upheld or not upheld. We've attached to the back of the annual governance statement, in this, it won't be published, but it was just for the committee's reference, just for transparency, the information commissioner decision notices, or where we've had emails from the information commissioner. Of the 8 complaints that were lodged with the information commissioner, 6 have been upheld. 6 have been upheld in the authority's favour, i.e. the complaints were valid. 2 have been upheld in the complainant's favour, i.e. they were complaints upheld. What we intend to do going forward as part of the regulatory report is each quarter bring these decision notices to this committee, so you can see those going throughout the year. But I wanted to finalise this year with you have insight of all of them, which is why they've been attached. They obviously won't be published as part of the annual governance statement, but we wanted to bring them to round off the year for you. And then with respect to the terms of reference to the committee, sorry, I'm scrolling there. It's whether or not the committee wishes to propose any amendments to the terms of reference. But what we're doing as part of the organisational improvement plan is having a look at how the committee's terms of reference can be strengthened. I think we're at the last Audit Governance Committee, when we looked at the organisational improvement plan, we proposed a workshop over the summer. So what we'll do is we'll bring the terms of reference to that workshop as well, and take any feedback from this committee with a view to approve them in the September meeting.
Councillor, yes.
Yeah, if I may, reading them, there was a SIPFA document in, I think it's 2022, and it is still current, and it's got SIPFA's suggested terms of reference, but for local authorities, not for combined authorities, so I don't know whether the two match up. And I was running out of time by the time I got here on reading the papers, but it's about 4 and a bit pages. I'm sure Gary will have that document if you want it, or if you can't lay his hands on an electronic copy. I think I probably can. I could send it through to you if you wanted it, but I'm sure Gary will have it.
We'll have a look at that, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I presume that you'll interlace the terms of reference with references to the committees, etc. in the Constitution.
Yes.
So there won't be a jarring, which wouldn't be helpful.
We certainly will do, Councillor.
And I think it would be just good to secure a date over the summer, because I know everybody will have, commitments as well. So if we're going to do something in terms of that and bring it to a summer sort of workshop, then yeah, we probably need to just secure a date in with everybody that works, because I'm sure people will have lots of holidays and nice things planned if they haven't already done so. So yeah, if we could just secure a date maybe with the committee members accordingly, that would be good. Thanks. Anybody else got any other questions on that one? No, thank you. Agenda item number 11, which is the regulatory report. So Emma, I think that's yourself, yeah?
I've got nothing further to add, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? No? Thank you. Agenda item number 12, which is the work programme. Obviously, this is to review the draft work programme for the coming year, 25-26. So it's obviously, if anybody else feels there's anything further that we would like to add to that plan or the work programme, then obviously, you know, we can do that. So if anybody's got any comments or questions on that at all. I mean, obviously there is quite a detailed plan on there in terms of sort of each quarter, and I think we've heard today of how a lot of the information is going to come back to this committee in various formats with the reviews that are currently ongoing as well, but there is a lot of detail in there already. But if anybody's got anything pressing that they would like to add further at all to it, no, we're happy with it? Yeah, no, happy to accept that one then. Thank you very much, everybody. And agenda item number 13, which is the risk management report. Is that yourself, Angela? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I think the one point to note on here is the addition of the best value notice onto the risk register. So the treatment action plan's been shared in the previous cabinet meeting and a few other meetings behind. That's obviously reflected in our risk system, so we are tracking that along with the finance team and with the continuous improvement lead to make sure that we're on track. This one in particular is with regards to, and I think Gary's been through this before, with regards to the workshops. Sorry, that would have been Sarah. And there is one on capacity in there as well. So if anybody has any questions with regards to the contents.
Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, just in terms of, it's just the way that it reads maybe, so the best value notice has been added and there's a whole series of updates and then there's an action plan in that. How do we know that the action plan has actually been acted upon? So for example, it says weekly BVN meetings, communication plan to be completed, weekly meetings with the chief exec. I can't see anything in that that says that it's on track. I know it's amber as an overall, but what is the, how do we have assurance that all that's happening?
And I can definitely look at getting that added. So this is quite high level. Behind this, there's a very detailed action plan which sits for our continuous improvement lead, and that feeds into here. But to take your point, Andrew, I think we could put some updates on there to say where we are and if we're on track with a RAG rating.
Yeah, I don't think we need the weekly updates on it, but just some form of status that says, is this happening, is it not happening, so that we don't get to the end of it and go, well, we could have known that 6 weeks ago. Or
absolutely, yeah, I can make sure there's a status update in there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point, isn't it? At least we can track it over the course of the year as to, you know, even if it's red, amber, green or whatever, we can see
just
the movement.
Some form of indicative status that says where we are.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments at all, questions?
Chair, can I just ask a quick question regarding on the risks? 2512, obviously the insufficient capacity for the electrical infrastructure. And on the bullet points, obviously there's quite a few. There's one there where there's the Tees Valley Energy Strategy is currently under review. Well, obviously you can read that, but it's said to be mobilisation is complete and expected to be delivered by June the 26th. Is that still the case? Has it been delivered?
It's actually June 2026.
Sorry,
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think because there's some dates called out individually, but we can make that.
Yeah, maybe.
It is one of these things that's quite a long-term plan.
Thank you.
No, that's fine.
I just look at that because obviously certain things like when you do things online, it's like American things, so you usually get the month and then the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Just on Angela, obviously the risk, which is 2495, and obviously there was the extraordinary cabinet meeting is detailed on there. Have we got some of the reassurances now around sort of the team capacity and things? Obviously, I know Gary said before about that side of things and recruitment and getting people in place. Have we got some sort of reassurances now around that?
As far as I'm aware, on his last update, there was some recruitment that was coming into fruition in the next few weeks. He really does take his opportunity to leave when these questions come in.
No, it's all right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think with regards to the mitigations, we have our finance function locked away in a porta cabin outside where they can't be bothered, and yet some of the external recruitment that I'll take away and get a more comprehensive update.
I know when he last spoke, Gary said that he was confident that things were moving in the right direction, so I'm sure that'll still be the case, but yeah, thank you. Any other comments or questions at all from anybody? No? Thank you very much for that one, Angela, thank you. I think it was just for noting, wasn't it? I think I'll just go back to the top. Yeah, note the risk analysis set out in the report, provide any feedback where necessary, so yeah, thank you. And last but not least, agreement of dates for 25-26 municipal year, agenda item number 14. I don't know if people have had a chance to cross-reference their calendars and the diaries, but the dates are obviously all noted in there for reference, so obviously, you know, please shout up if there are any particular problems, just so we can ensure that we quorum it for the meetings as well. So I don't know if anybody's got anything specific that they want to sort of specify now at all, or...
Excuse me, Chair, can I just ask, there's one 9:45 meeting, is there any reason behind that? The first one on the 11th of September?
It went into the diary a little bit later and it was around availability of officers.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor, yeah.
I've got page 283 here. What page are you on for the...
That's on the agenda.
Or on the actual bottom of the agenda,
sorry.
right? Yeah, on item 14 on the agenda, then there's some dates.
Page 14.
Yeah,
sorry.
so yeah.
I thought I'd seen some dates.
Right back at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's page 6, oh, you're not on the line, but yeah, it's page 6 on the plan.
And then there's sort of 5 dates listed under the agenda item. So we've got the 11th of September, 27th of November, 12th of February 26, 21st of May 26, and the 30th of June 2026. And like I say, I think it's just a case of, unless we are aware of anything specific, then I think, you know, please liaise with Elaine if there's any particular issues as we go forward, just to ensure that we are quorum. And obviously, if not, if people can't attend, then obviously send your substitutes if you're able to do that.
Can I just make
certainly.
a point? What we've just done in red conclusion, which as it went to the individual committees, is due to the fact of availability. Some councillors do work, and we try to change times and things like that, because obviously 2 o'clock in the afternoon is slap bang in the middle of the day, basically. Was that ever considered, or has that ever been brought before, or anything like that? Potentially, just to say, depending on each individual committee meeting, the availability is there. Like, obviously, we've done this early on September for the sake, because obviously for officers. Is it something that maybe could be like an evening or a 9 o'clock start or something like that in the future, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, the 11th of September was added in to receive the draft financial statements, because they haven't made it to this meeting, so that's why that one was added in. It's also been added in because if we get a workshop in over the summer to enable you to look at your update to Cabinet on the organisation improvement plan. There is scope, I think it's been identified by other committees, to look at outside of office hours if that's what this committee would like. So I'm happy for the Chair to take it away with members, and if you'd like to look at the times, if there is a time that suits you better, Councillor, and the rest of the committee, then certainly we can look at it.
Well, what we did in Redcar, we put it to the vote with all the members, and then obviously whoever, there was a couple of options, and then we went through there. Some stayed at the normal time, some went early, some went after hours. Obviously it depends on officers if they're open to that score. Just to make sure we get better attendance, because there's 4 independent members and only 1 today has managed to turn up because of work probably or other commitments. And to get the best of this meeting is to have as many possible people here.
Is it worth liaising with the independent members who are not here today to see if there is any trend of if it is timings or not, possibly maybe because we can identify if there's any problem, maybe something we can put on the next agenda just to have a discussion. But I'm sure if people want to send me anything as chair as well, I can sort of liaise with the teams over the summer if there's anything specific as well, so feel free just to get in touch with me. So we'll put those down for the time being, obviously pending us looking at that as an action as well. Anything else from anybody on those? No, thank you. And I think that is everything. Yeah, so thank you very much everybody, thank you for attending, and Thank you, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.